Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your Rangers Review post-match reaction video after Rangers secured their Champions League qualification to the third qualifying round after a battling 1-1 draw in Athens against Panathinaikos to emerge victorious 3-1 on aggregate. Victoria Pilsen or Servette lie in wait. And got to give the team credit. BIG Gassama with the crucial goal for Rangers. Simply, I think, might have been his first touch when he came on as a substitute just shortly after Rangers fell behind through a goal that was given after a lengthy VAR check. But it's fair to say that was Harum Scarum in that first half. Rangers rode their luck and then some. But the main aim of the game at this stage is to get through, and Rangers have done that. Joshua, your initial reaction to what you just witnessed?
Initial reactions, I think everyone, including myself, was working out the best words to criticise Russell Martin for not starting Gassama until he scored from the bench again, and it looks like another masterstroke. But if you focus on the result first, I think there's a lot to get into. I think there's a lot of talking points around style of play, what Rangers are trying to do, why they're taking those risks. Myself and Adam are recording the Tactics podcast tomorrow, so we'll save some of that for then. But in terms of result, Rangers have at least Europa League football, and we knew that coming into this tie, Derek, that actually the draw in the Champions League is probably easier than the draw in the Europa League. So significant in that regard. You're right, they rode their luck. Jack Butland probably the man of the match for me. Very similar to last week in that Rangers are the happier side. It's goalless at the break and have Jack Butland to thank for going in goalless at the break. But Gassama's moment kind of changes the whole tone and feeling of the game. I thought Giga was quietly quite effective too. And they rode their luck. There was some high, what would I say? You're struggling there.
Yes, I've got this screen. You can see, folks. It's
that looks a bit better.
Yeah, I'm holding on to it. So if I don't get to your comments, and I do apologise, but crack on, Joshua. Some technical issues in the Clark household here behind the scenes. Quite like the Rangers' defence tonight, but we got away with it.
Felt like the Rangers' defence, but. I think there's a lot to get into, which we will over the coming days in terms of like, why are they taking these risks? I am more on the side of it's worth it for the long term. It's uncomfortable in the moment, and there is a large element of luck that I think plays into Rangers getting through that tie. Not just tonight, but last week too. In a number of games, I think they go behind in both of those first halves, but got a bit of luck, and it's a significant result for them, and I think that's what Russell Martin will care about when he flies home tonight with the rest of his squad.
Yeah, he'll be absolutely jubilant just now. There's no doubt about it, because that was even before when the draw was made, it wasn't the team that you would have picked out of the three available. I thought that it might come too soon for this Rangers team, given what I was told with regards to Russell Martin. What he said, he's still learning about his team, and it takes time for his playing style and for his methods to be ingrained in the players that he has. I don't think he has the players to play that playing style that he wants to at this point in time. Thankfully, Panathinaikos really struggled in front of goal. If it was a half-decent side up top, then I fear that the tie may well have been over by the first leg, never mind the second leg. But it was Harum Scarum at times. There's no doubt about it, certainly in that first half. The team, Joshua, he went with the same starting 11 that started at Ibrox. It certainly surprised me. I thought you would have got it bang on, but he elected to keep Kieran Dowell in there. Listen, he worked hard tonight, but again, it was one of those ones where the supporters are a bit miffed as to why he's getting the nod. He's clearly not a right winger. Rangers, it's not the priority position at this point for me, because there's players to come back from injury and there's players on the cusp of joining. But we can't have Kieran Dowell playing at right wing.
He's obviously not a long-term plan.
No.
I've said Kieran Dowell isn't in the same position as... I think at the start of the summer, a lot of people would have thought he'd be in the same boat as Ben Davies and Ridvan Yilmaz, Robin Proper, players who at points have been training away from the group. And it's just a matter of time until, well, presuming Rangers can find a buyer and can get them out, they don't have a future club. I don't think he's in that position. I tweeted before the game that the fact he's a left footer, I think, is one of the large reasons he's in that team, because apart from Diamandi, he's the only other left footer. I thought he was having an all right game defensively until that moment where he made a terrible lapse of judgment to allow his man in to, was it Juric, to score the first goal on the night. And maybe it's just the fact that for this type of game, if you looked at the positions Dowell was playing in, he was very deep. Rangers were often, they weren't defending a 4-4-2, they were defending really in a 4-5-1. And maybe Martin just thought he didn't quite trust Gassama in that defensive role, because Dowell did have a few moments where he did okay defensively. Again, Martin said pre-match, he said, I think it was his Rangers TV interview, he said part of the reasoning not starting Gassama was to try and perhaps allow him to have that impact on the game. And he did. He talk about introductions, not just last week, but this week too. Looks like for the money Rangers have paid for Gassama, they've got a real game changer and someone who changed the whole feel of the tie. Because you're right, while there's a couple of moments I thought Rangers played out okay, generally you saw that probably this tie came too soon against this level of opposition for what they're trying to do. They kept their fullbacks a bit lower, but the passes were kind of forced. The passes to the feet of Danilo kind of just opened up the middle of the pitch and left them a bit vulnerable. Jack Butland had a few good saves, a few standard saves. There was a moment where James Tavernier got caught playing with his back to goal. So many elements of it where you look and you think this is a long way from being finished. But I'd also say if you look at that starting 11 compared to the end of the window, you probably only have 3 or 4 players who are kind of specialists in their position, maybe 4 or 5. I'm thinking of Giga. I'm thinking of Rothwell in that number 6 position. Tavernier. Aarons clearly isn't at his most comfortable at left back. You're going to have 2 different wingers in there. Danilo probably isn't your first choice striker. I think on the ball, Raskin has some limitations in that left number 8 spot just because he's so heavily right-footed and sometimes the angles are against him. So I agree with you. I think you could see that it was pretty early for them to have that test. And had it not been for luck in certain moments, we'd be having a very different conversation, wouldn't we, about perhaps Rangers not getting through. But as it turned out, they rode their luck a little bit, and then they could rely on Gassama to get them out of a hole really in the second half.
Yeah, he's a top player. I think he's going to do really well at Rangers. And as we touched on before, I think they've got a bit of a steal given Sheffield Wednesday's dire financial state at this point. So, great finish from him. Good technique. Incidentally, folks, that, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Rangers could get either Servette or Pilsen. Pilsen lead by 2-1 over in Spritz. They are leading 2-1 Servette had opened the scoring early on, 4th minute opener. But Pilsen have scored 2 goals in the space of 3 minutes, and they now lead 2-1. 62 minutes played in that game, so it's very much up in the air. The first leg, incidentally, at Ibrox next week, and the return leg in either Switzerland or the Czech Republic the following week. Defensively there, we touched it on, we've been discussing it. Giga, I thought, was pretty solid, Joshua. Yeah. I've got no issue with him. I've got an issue with Max Aarons at left back. I said it before the game. I said it last week. I don't like it. I don't want to see it at third park, to be honest with you. He looks far more comfortable at right back, which is what this position is. It certainly looks like a player that has been played out of position. Jefty came on. I thought he did reasonably well when he came on, Jefty, and I would be more inclined to start him at third park at left back, just to give the team a bit of balance, because Panathinaikos were looking to expose Rangers down that sort of left-hand side. And John Suter, I've said before, much prefer him on the right. But what's your opinion on that one? Rangers need a left back. If Russell Martin doesn't rate Jefty, we can't have Max Aarons playing there for a prolonged period of time.
Yeah, it's something that we've been kind of keeping an eye on and trying to dig more into this week. And the priority for Rangers is getting these 2 wingers. Mikey Moore is really close. Our understanding is that could be confirmed this week. Antman, as Chris said, I think this morning on the show, as of yesterday afternoon, no official bid had been launched. but that's a player that Rangers really like and might have to move on to, given the Raksaki price and the potential difficulties around that deal. So that there's priorities in addressing the final third. If you look at that, four players who started on the left-hand side, so you've got Raskin, Aarons, Suter, and who's the other one? Finlay Curtis. I think the first issue you have, before we get into Aarons individually, is that's 4 players, or maybe 3 players, because I'm not sure on Curtis. But it's 3 players in Raskin, Suter, and Aarons who probably didn't use their left foot the whole night. Maybe Aarons did a little bit. But Raskin and Suter in particular never play on their left-hand side. You know, they've used the outside of their right foot a lot. And Suter, I thought he was quite slow when he was stepping in with the ball tonight. If you have a left-sided centre-back to play at different angles, if you have a left winger who's really going to stretch the game and go wide and going behind, or you have someone like even a Tello Asgard in that number 8 position who maybe can play in wider positions more comfortably than Raskin because he can play in that left-hand side, then maybe it helps Aarons to play at better angles. Because it was all so to feet, one-footed and one-dimensional, I thought Rangers kind of struggled in there as a result. So I would still expect them to bring in a left-back this window. The difficulty you've got is twofold. One, there's only a certain extent of stockpiling you can do.
Yeah.
And again, our understanding at the moment is Rangers have kind of reached their limit with that. So they've signed a number of players before getting the likes of, I know Proper's gone now, but Proper and Davies and Cifuentes, amongst others, Ridvan out. Can you now go and buy another left back while you've still got Ridvan there? I think that becomes very difficult. And you see with Chefty, when Chefty comes onto the pitch, you're right, a nice couple of balls across the face of goal, but he's not a natural player inside the pitch. He's at his most comfortable when he's overlapping, when he's providing width, and that kind of setting the tempo in field and playing a lot of passes. That's not so much his game. I think it can be Aaron's game, but it's a big ask to not only learn that role, but kind of learn it on your wrong side against a difficult opponent. So in a roundabout way, I think you will still see Rangers target and ideally sign a left back. But this is, and getting through to the next round of European competition certainly helps their cause. Getting into the playoff would help it even further. But you can't completely stockpile a squad. The wage bill has gone up significantly. And if you think, Derek, of the number of millions of pounds at the moment annually that is not even training with the first team, that's not sustainable regardless of Rangers' ownership structure, regardless of what competition they play in. They've got to trim this squad down to address certain areas of the squad. And left back, I think, absolutely will be one of those all going well.
Yep. OS19 says, I've just left Edmiston House. What an atmosphere when that goal went in. Absolutely would have been bouncing, I'd imagine there. Great time to score, incidentally, as well. You always say a team is at its most vulnerable when you just score, and that proved to be the case. It quietened down the Panathinaikos fans who got a bit giddy when that opening goal went in for them. And I've got to say, Joshua, at that point I was a tad concerned because it certainly seemed like pretty much one-way traffic for much of the game at that point. And when did they score? 53 minutes in? You think, no, it could be a long old night from them. So, fair play to Rangers for going up the park and doing the business. And that really knocked the stuffing out of Panathinaikos, it's fair to say. Dessers really should have scored late on, incidentally. Run through on goal.
You just knew he wasn't going to finish that. I mean, I could see we were watching it thousands of miles away, and he might as well have pointed to the far corner and said, "That's where I'm going, goalie." Unreal. He's like the epitome of a striker who, I know Kenny Miller used to get this all the time, but he's the epitome of a striker who, when he has got a little bit of time to think about a shot, it tends to not go as well. But that getting Gassama on early, and again, fair play to Russell Martin for not probably panicking, or maybe should have taken Dowell off earlier, I don't know. But putting Gassama on the left-hand side, on his favoured side, where he could have that impact. Aside from that, I thought Rangers did get into the final third on a couple of occasions in the first half. We just didn't quite have the individualism to make a difference. But if you're looking at Curtis and Dowell, Curtis is probably we're talking about those 5 wingers earlier today on the show. Curtis is probably number 5 on that list, right? This is only his 4th, 5th Rangers start against a really difficult opponent. Kieran Dowell, as you say, is not an out-and-out right winger. He's not a natural right winger. And I don't think he really comes into that conversation of first team wingers next season. So you also have to have, I guess, a little bit of understanding and quality of the opponent and just getting through the tie being an impressive enough achievement over the 2 legs, even if, as we keep coming back to, they rode their luck.
Yeah, I've been told that Pilsen have been reduced to 10.
Ooh.
So they are down to 10 men in that game. So interesting. Servette, you'd imagine, favourites now to go through, but is Pilsen leading by 2-1, 2 each on aggregate, that one. I've been one, and many others have said, when the draw was made, Joshua, that it's a favourable one for Rangers. You take Servette or Pilsen. Of course, Rangers beat Servette a couple of seasons ago, and Pilsen, you'd like to think Rangers can get the better of them. But I think that's purely based, I mean, I don't know much about Victoria Pilsen. All I know about Servette is Rangers beat them 2 years ago. I think it's based on the name, perhaps. In Europe, you think of Panathinaikos, and it's a household name, isn't it, in European football? Yeah. But these two teams, listen, I'm sure that Russell Martin and the team won't be underestimating their opponents for next week and the week after. How do you feel going into that, based on what you've seen in these 2 legs? I think tonight was vitally important for Rangers to get through, given that that's Europa League group stage football secured. I think anything from here is a bonus, really. They need to sharpen up defensively, and certainly in the forward areas, there's a lot of improvement to be done.
There's a tweet I saw at halftime from Football Stuart of kind of Rangers football, Rangers Twitter heritage. And you know the David Moyes tweet where it's like, Man United must improve in their passing, shooting, defending, and the basically just everything. And I think that's fair. What I'd say, and again, we'll get into this in the tactics podcast, but I think there's a bit of a misconception with what Martin's football tries to do, in that you see the moment where Tavernier gets caught like really badly, and Panathinaikos should score. A couple of minutes later, Giga takes the ball well in that situation and Rangers play through, and you see the benefit of it. And I think when they get pressed that deep, they're not trying to play it around the back for the sake of, it's fun to take risks and, let's play football around our penalty box. It's because if you can beat the press there and arrive then in the final third in a controlled manner, which you saw for the second goal last week. I know it's against 10 men, so slightly mitigated. Yeah. But that's the kind of point in it. Similarly, I don't think Russell Martin will mind playing low blocks week after week if he does domestically, because it means he won't have to do that. It won't be next to his goal all the time. And obviously, he's not going to be playing an opponent probably who presses as aggressively as Panathinaikos that consistently. And you also saw, I thought Jack Butland's kicking was actually pretty good, especially to either fullback. And you saw him go long on quite a few occasions, and Martin was applauding for that, because it's not just about playing short passes, it's about finding the free man. So I can hear the keyboards typing all over Scotland who are telling me I'm speaking rubbish, but we will address this more on the tactics show tomorrow. That obviously is by no means a perfect solution tonight. So whoever I think Rangers have, they'll need to be better, because that luck will come back around and maybe won't be with them in the next round. Whoever it is, though, is probably slightly easier than Panathinaikos, if not on a par. And the fact that you have that Europa League group stage to fall back on is so beneficial, because if Rangers had, I think it would have been Shakhtar they'd have played in the third round. I'm right in saying if they dropped out. I know they've obviously got a lot more going on than just football, which has impacted their squad. Yeah. But Shakhtar have traditionally been a Champions League team. That would be a very difficult way to make it into the Europa League group stage. So significant for them to win tonight, just in terms of securing Europa League football, as you say. Yeah, and the atmosphere would be poor going into that. You're going in on a downer, whereas you'll go to Third Park now, buoyant after that result tonight. Incidentally, Servette have been reduced to 10 as well, so the pair of them are down to 10 minutes. All kicking off. We should have done a watch along. We should, but that would have been absolutely sensational. I don't know what the match is being shown, but interesting stuff over there. Few comments, not Peter Lovenkrantz on the BBC, who were showing the game this evening, saying afterwards, Joshua,
he's not sure of the system that Russell Martin is trying to adopt. We were told, having spoken to a number of people that follow Swansea and Southampton, that it takes time and he needs patience to get the team playing how he wants them to play. Now, that's easier said than done. A team like Rangers, do you see this system, on what you have seen so far, working in the Scottish game? Is it too early to say that?
No, I'm saying yes. I mean, there's a lot of, you need to sign quite a few more players.
Yes.
And you need luck and the bounce of the ball in a lot of games. But I think you've got to remember, off the basis of tonight, how many teams do Rangers come up of that quality domestically? I mean, Hearts will be improved this season. I think that's an interesting subplot. Aberdeen obviously won the Scottish Cup. Hibs are a European team. So I think the division is improving. But we go back to this point all the time, that look at the team the style of play that has won the Scottish Premiership consistently over the past 4 or 5 years. It's not direct attritional football. It's being able to control the ball. You won't have to take those type of risks all the time domestically, because I don't think the majority of teams who come to Ibrox are going to press at a better level than Rangers can play out, personally speaking.
Yeah.
I think this is very early. Again, your starting 11 is probably fairly far away from what you want it to look like. And this is just how football looks now too. There is a lot of risks taken. Watch any Super Sunday down south, and Rangers kind of have been living in the past.
To watch at times, though, isn't it? I mean, tonight was just hear him, but it's do we need the heart attack stuff every game?
It is a hard watch, but you see what I'd say in mitigation is, like, what isn't a risky pass? Because yes, there is a degree to this, right? But I'm going to throw I love a niche reference. See the game, Rangers beat Malmo 2-0 away from home. Ross McCausland's goal. You know, the one where Tavernier plays a looping ball and Dessers gets... That's the type of goal that summed up what Rangers were doing under Clement. It was percentage football. And when you control as much of the ball, we saw it, when you control as much of the ball as they do, that percentage football works for the opposition more than you, because it introduces more variables. It's up in the air. It's second ball football. So if Rangers clear their lines tonight, is there a time to do that? And is there a time to go more direct? Yeah, I think there is. And I, in particular, when Butland did that at points, you saw Martin applaud him. But on the other hand, if you just give the ball back, is that less risky? You go back to what Martin wants, which is to have the ball. That's his kind of core belief. Now, I understand that some people like that. Sometimes it's uncomfortable, risky to watch. But I think that there's also a risk in giving up complete control of the ball and just sitting back and not having ownership of it. And equally, there's a risk in just clearing your lines and giving, rather than trying to break through. Take Max Aarons when he turns, again, I know it's against 10 men, but when he turns that Panathinaikos attacker last week to start the attack for Gassama's goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If he just clears that, it's maybe we think of it as less risky in our head because, it's out of the danger zone, but then it could come back just as quickly instead of starting another attack. So, yes, over the basis of these two games, should it look like that? No, I don't think so. I think there is, and especially in the first half when they were playing those kind of flat passes into Danilo or flat passes into the midfield, I thought there's a lot of unnecessary risks. But also, I think every style of play has a risk, if that makes sense.
Yep. Well, Gil certainly appreciates that. Says great analysis, Joshua. And just for William, he says, Derek, he's just got us through. Crack a smile. So there, I'm smiling. Listen, I'm pleased. A lot of comments coming in saying we basically should be jumping for joy. Listen, we've applauded Rangers. It's a fantastic achievement getting through, but we're here to give a reaction. It was scary at points, and there's points that the team clearly needs to work on, and I'm sure Russell Martin will be saying this in his post-match press conference as well. It's clear with anyone that's watching Rangers at the moment. Refreshing to see that style of play, of course it is, but he needs the personnel to carry out to the standards that he wants. And at the moment, there's players there that are a tad struggling at times doing that, but that is what it is. Listen, over the main, I think everyone would be happy with that. Man of the match, Joshua, I think Jack Butland again came up trumps for Rangers. Big Phil says Butland at fault for the goal, but the misheader seemed to fill him. Yeah, watching it, perhaps he could criticise his feet placement there, but I think it's one of those ones. If he nods it properly, I think he could save it, but he's miscued it somewhat, and it's fooled him, and it's gone in at the far end. I'm not going to go two-footed on Jack Butland. I think over the piece, over the two legs, he came up trumps for Rangers.
He did, and as we said a couple of times, he was good playing out under pressure too. The one-on-one save from Pellistri, I know Pellistri kind of goes on his right foot where he should maybe open the goal up, but still a really good save. He did his work over the two legs, didn't he, Jack Butland? And I'm sure he will be full of confidence after that. I think G-Gun maybe a close second.
Yep.
Thought he was really good. Rothwell gave the ball away on a few occasions. Also thought he had some really nice moments on the ball. There was that turn late in the game that I thought showed just the type of quality that he can bring to the midfield. But it was it wasn't a game where the ball was very secure. Aside from that, Gassama, you have to say, thought Danilo again, another quite difficult game for him, pretty isolated. Curtis didn't have much. Raskin and Diomande the same. And you've got to remember as well, conditions Chris was telling us pre-match. Chris had a walk up in the Necropolis today, and so he's also been performing in the heat, and has assured us that it is toasty over there. So that plays into it too. But yeah, I'd say Jack Butland, and going into we spoke about it on the show today, but going into the final month of the transfer window, I don't think that hurts him whatsoever, having that double-header performance.
Yeah, this is a good question, and I'm pleased you're on, because Neil gets in touch. Just based on the first half, he says, we didn't seem to have an out ball in the first half. What happened, Joshua?
It wasn't my decision, but I think two things. It's harder when you're not at the game, so you can't see the kind of runs off the camera. But firstly, is it points when that pass is played into Danilo. I think that's such a risky pass, because if he manages to play it around the corner, a centre half is out of the opposition's defence. You've got number 8s running beyond. But it fell all very to feet, to Neil's point. And again, I think that comes into, if you've got Gassama in there, he runs in behind more and he makes those type of movements. Whereas Dowell and Curtis, both are probably wingers who come to feet more.
Yeah.
So that for me was the issue. And also the fullback sat back a little bit more to try and draw out Panathinaikos, but that made it a bit more static, because you only had 2 players rotating down the side instead of all 3. So that would be my tuppence worth on that. But again, we're going to have some clips tomorrow, myself and Adam, and go through it in a bit more detail. So that should be out with you about early afternoon. And we'll get into a little bit more of that chat then.
Yeah, fantastic. And ahead of Saturday evening, of course, Rangers going to Fir Park. The domestic action kicks off for real. How do you see that going? Do you make changes to that? Coming back, Tello Asgard, it remains to be seen if he'll be part of the squad. Same applies to Hamza Igaman as well. I've said it before, I'd be looking to make a change at left back. And then it's either Tav or Max Aarons at right back for me. Other than that, any other alterations? Are you making that change?
Definitely Gassama. I mean, has to start. I'd probably start Gassama over Curtis, because I think that Dowell will continue to play until Rangers have Mikey Moore or Antman in there. Who else can even play off the right? Gassama could play off the right, but then he's maybe not quite as strong there. So is it worth weakening his individual performance? I don't know. Yeah, this is the. It's
not going to go down well if Kieran Dill's in that starting 11. No disrespect to the guy, but I don't think the fans will be too enamoured by that.
I think it will be. I think the starting 11 will be, presuming there's no injuries, the same as tonight, but Gassama in for Curtis. we can revisit this on the
yeah, we shall do. Of course, we'll hear from Russell Martin ahead of that game. I'd imagine Friday will be a press conference day. They'll fly back tonight, but there'll certainly be it'll be a happy plane heading back. That's for sure. And yes, safe travels to all the Bears that headed out there to Athens for the game as well. Certainly heard them singing loud and proud during the match. So fantastic to get that goal at Gassama and to get the qualification secured as well. William says it was roasting. He says there, yeah, absolutely was. You heard it was hitting the high 30s over there, even when the sun was going down. So it was going to be a tough old night, but they've came through it. So they've passed the first test, and it's onwards now to Saturday and then next week. It's still 2-1, incidentally, folks. Just an update on that game. So 2 apiece between Servette and Pilsen. If you had to choose, you were in Servette last time, Joshua, weren't you? Geneva, isn't it?
Yes.
Is that where they play?
Yeah, it was. And what I remember from that game was, can't believe it was 2 years ago, but I remember that it was very hot, and also the fans were, it was like their average attendance was like 8,000, and then suddenly that night they sold it out for the first time in like 20 years, and the atmosphere was actually really impressive, and Rangers actually it made it quite difficult for themselves. They should have put the tie to bed in the first leg. So yeah, we shall see where they're off to next. To Victoria, Pilsen play in Prague. Am I right in saying that? Or...
I think Pilsen's an actual place. So yeah, so I'm not too sure where it is, but it's the Czech Republic somewhere. So yeah,
let's go for that. Somewhere new, but yeah, we'll see. It's going to be a busy August, but we should say to people that Chris will be speaking to Russell Martin just now, so you can watch that press conference.
Yes,
and read it on the website. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've not done so already. It's free and really helps us out. And of course, you can see in the ticker below the deal ahead of the new season. Subscription to the website gets you all this and more, just $2.99 a month, and supports us in all that we do. So thank you to everyone for tuning in. I sense we will have a few more of these slightly anxious post-match debriefs over the coming season. And you have Johnny on in the morning, who I don't think is going to be that positive about it all. I'll be tuning in. in.
Yeah, make sure you tune in, folks, for more hot takes. I've just seen that there has been a VAR check for a Victoria Pilsen penalty, 85th minute over there in Switzerland. So that could be a key point in the game. But we'll wrap up there for now. As Joshua said, that Russell Martin is currently uploading, folks. So we should have that on your YouTube channel as soon as we come off here, so you can go and see what he has to say after Rangers secured Champions League progression and guaranteed Europa League group stage football until the end of January. So it's been a good old night in Planet Rangers, that's for sure. Right, a big thank you to you all for tuning in to the show as ever. Big thanks to Joshua as well. And as he mentioned earlier on, we'll speak to you all tomorrow at 9:30. And have a good night, folks. Speak to you later on. Bye for now.